Hello, hello, hello. Good evening, everybody. Welcome back to Fugitive Games. This is not my real voice, but I've been doing so many British accents while playing this game that it's easy to just think about going right back into it. Anyway, let's see what we got. Actually, let me check out the, make sure that my audio is a go. Hold on one second, please. Alright, I think that should be fine. Whoa! I didn't mean to... Oh, I was supposed to be right here. You know what? Hold on a second. Turn to tile screen. And what I want to do... We went through a whole trial with all of the cutscenes in Japanese dialogue. I want to see how it feels to play it in English again. I keep switching between them. I can't decide which I like more. But I haven't heard the objection call for Baron von Zieks yet, so that is something I'm very curious about. So I'm hoping that I can get some of that action going on. Actually, I don't know what is ahead of me. I don't know if this next case will be structured a little more like the, you know, the usual. Where you have an investigation day and stuff like that. But we are starting the courtroom again, because it seems to be picking up like right after the end of the last case, so not entirely sure where we're going to be, but let's see. Ah, yes. The adventure of the clouded Kokoro.
I begin to think, Wilson, said Sholmes, turning his head languidly in my direction, that there is more to this case than that which we have observed.
So this is
that there may be
Wilson,
to this story that we
quote-unquote Wilson, saying this.
His eyes wandered, following the steam rising from his cup.
Hey, I don't believe that writing. It's just floating on top of this.
To the distant
I don't think this is real paper.
Snowy evening. To the young lady collapsed on the pavement along Briar Road, and to the knife in her back. Lit in the soft glow of gas lamps, a most extraordinary scene had been set.
Am I right? Okay. Are police officers referred to as bobbies? Has that ever been a thing? I'm trying to remember if that's the thing. Anyway, we got ourselves a knifing here. And admittedly, I was not paying too close attention to that. Alright, here we go. It's the 19th of February. I don't remember what day it was before. Anyway. Oh shoot, I don't remember what voice I gave that Supreme Judge Justice guy. If he shows up, I'll probably not sound exactly the same. That's fine. Did you sleep last night, Mr. Naruhodo? No, not at all. It was an enormous hotel, wasn't it? The rooms were so luxurious. I felt like we were staying in a palace. And with all the gas lights twinkling, it was brighter than day, even in the middle of the night. What about the enormous beds? After my time on the SS Buria, I wasn't going to waste a single inch of that space. I spent the entire night rolling from one side of the mattress to the other. Oh yeah, it was so good. Oh yes, it really was the sort of night you can only dream of normally. Or you can only dream of normally. Except, when I learnt that we owed £3 for the rooms, that dream quickly turned into a nightmare. Oops. Sorry about that. The building was so impressive and the entrance was so inviting, I just wandered in without thinking. In a lodging house in Japan, that sum of money would put a roof over your head for a whole year. I did try, but I'm afraid I couldn't help my tears when we were presented with the bill. I really am sorry. Well, never mind. We must find some more affordable lodging straight away, though. If we're not careful, our entire stipend will be used up in 10 days or less. London is a scary place.
Good morning to you at this early hour.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's that guy. Oh, yes, well... He turns. Good morning to you, Lord Chief Justice. We've come to report on the outcome of the trial at the Old Bailey yesterday. Sutta sounds amazing. She doesn't bat an eyelid, even in the presence of the imposing Lord Strongheart.
Yes, I believe you had a very comprehensive initiation into British courtroom practices.
Oh, yes, it was very eye-opening, thank you. And in accordance with your instructions, Lord Strongheart, Mr. Naruhodo performed his duty to the end.
Yes, I've already been apprised of the events. You conducted a remarkable defense. You may consider the test passed.
Aw, Moosh, that's so sweet of you to say. That warms my heart. Truly, thank you so much. That's an awesome message to get, especially after a long week at work. So thank you. Thank you. You just made my night.
You conduct...
oh wait, I already read that. Oh.
No longer are you a student from the Empire of Japan. You may henceforth claim to be a fully fledged lawyer. My country is delighted to welcome young talent from such a remote eastern land.
Thank you very much. So, I'm a lawyer now.
Now, in view of your new appointment, I have a fresh case in mind for you. I'd like you to take it on at once. I trust that won't be a problem.
Another case? Already?
Nothing trains a lawyer better than practical experience. I'm sure I don't sense dissatisfaction, do I?
It's just that yesterday's trial ended unusually. I haven't quite come to terms with it.
What's to come to terms with? The man was cleared. What more were you hoping for? The culpability of the defendant has not, at the present time, been established by this court. Consequently, the jury will not be required to proffer judgment.
Well, Lord Van Deeks, it's been a pleasure, so it has. And as for you, my dear fella, I couldn't have asked for a better defense. Wait, I can sync the claps too. I just can't help wondering if Mr. McGilded really was innocent. Mr. Naruhodo. It's just that I never managed to ascertain the truth. And then the trial ended.
Well, you needn't let it trouble you for a second longer.
Sorry? I'd like to know what the Japanese equivalent of that sorry is, because that is something Ryunosuke only seems to do, and I'm wondering if it's just him going, hi? Or something like that. I really want to know. What do you mean, Lord Strongheart? Quit whining that watch.
Magnus McGilded passed away, immediately following the trial.
No. What? Mr. McGilded is dead? And the birds. Wow, fantastic.
I have 19 minutes and 41 seconds until my next engagement. Time enough to talk.
Oh, okay. Let us... Well, I've already examined this place. I doubt that much has changed. Let's just talk. I don't understand. What happened? How can he be dead?
After the trial concluded yesterday, there was a great commotion in the Old Bailey. As you'll presumably recall, an omnibus had been wheeled into the courtroom.
Yes, of course. That was the scene of the crime which Mr. McGilded had been accused of.
Precisely. Well, while the bailiff's attention was diverted by some other matter, the omnibus went up in flames.
No. How could such a thing have happened?
That is being investigated as we speak, but already. The police have identified a corpse found inside the charred shell of the carriage as that of McGilded.
That's awful.
The man must have slipped inside whilst the bailiff's attention was elsewhere.
That bailiff really needs to pay more attention. And how could that have happened?
That is also being investigated as we speak.
Thinking back now, immediately after the trial, Mr. McGilded did mention going back into the courtroom to look at the omnibus. Tashkani, he did. Well, I must be making tracks now. It's time for the inspection. Sorry, what inspection? I'm going to examine the omnibus again, so I'm told. I asked if I could be present for it myself.
An inspection of the omnibus? Not to my knowledge. I don't believe Scotland Yard had any intention of re-examining the carriage.
But then who was Mr. McGilded talking about?
Never mind that now. The Yard is making a thorough investigation. This matter is no longer any concern of yours. Leave it to the police.
Poor Mr. McGilded.
So, how did you find your first taste of our country's Supreme Court?
Oh, well, I don't know. I mean, it was... Wow. Mr. Naruhodo means that the whole experience was steeped in the solemnity of Great Britain's long history. It's really a world apart from our own judicial system in Japan, which is only a few short decades old. Wow, Sato-san is such a way with words. And you seem to have a way of failing to find the right ones. Dang it. I watched that super hard.
The judicial system here is the most advanced in the world. Learn all you can.
The most advanced in the world, is it?
It was fortunate that your very first trial was a simple affair.
Simple? That was me reacting. I wasn't expecting Susato to say that. Simple? That was simple?
As I believe I mentioned yesterday morning, it was a trial you couldn't lose.
I don't mean to be contrary, Lord Strongheart, but the case was anything but simple. The circumstances of the case were so incriminating, I was stunned when I first heard them. In fact, I'm still finding it hard to believe that we managed to get a favorable verdict. Is something funny?
No, my apologies. However, the fact is that you did receive the not guilty verdict you set out to achieve. And that can only be attributed to exceptional... I keep botching things. That can only be attributed to exceptional talent. Wouldn't you agree?
Well, I don't know about that.
Well, never mind. You exceeded my expectations, I freely admit. That much at least is an undeniable truth. Which is precisely why I've prepared the new case for you that I mentioned before.
What's going on? What was he gonna say before? Could you perhaps give us some more details about the new case you mentioned? Don't tell me. It's a murder, and the trial starts in 10 minutes.
Don't worry, it's nothing so alarming or quite so urgent as your last assignment. Apparently I can read your mind. In fact, this case is completely different.
Oh, I see. Oh my god, he actually acknowledged it for once. Did you just read my mind?
That is to say, no one has died, as yet. And the trial will not be today. There's plenty of time to research the case thoroughly. 23 hours, 43 minutes, and 19 seconds to be precise.
So the trial's tomorrow then. Which means we have an investigation day, I think. I hope. Well, not that I hope, it's just weird that we've yet to actually have much of an investigation. I guess we kind of did on the boat. Didn't feel quite like this. It didn't feel quite the same. Is everything alright? Oh, yes. I'm just a little confused, that's all. Yesterday's trial was... well, it's left me wondering if I'm really cut out for being a lawyer. Oh, Mr. Naruhodo. I don't know if I could face standing in that courtroom again after Mr. McGilded's trial.
Ah, yes, I nearly forgot. There is one similarity with yesterday's case. Once again, there is currently no one to advocate for the defense.
Oh.
If the situation remains unchanged, the trial will start tomorrow with the defendant unrepresented. And if that happens, I need not remind you of the inevitable outcome.
The most terrible end awaits the defendant.
Yes, that's right.
Here we go again. Aw, shit, here we go again. Ooh, a snap.
Your time is up. You will have to excuse me. I would advise you to begin making preparations for tomorrow's trial. After all, the clock is ever ticking. Or the clock is ever ticking.
Sorry, I just realized that there's something playing sounds in my room. It was coming from my phone. How fascinating. If that was picking up on the mic, my apologies.
There is now but 23 hours, 26 minutes, and 39 seconds until the court sits.
Last time he mentioned the 23 hours, he said there was plenty of time.
And one more thing, Mr. Naruhodo. There is something I should like to ask you.
Oh, what's that?
Yesterday, you remarked upon something. That you intend to see through the will of your late compatriot, Mr. Asogi.
Oh, I like this music.
I would be interested to hear what exactly you mean by that. Inside 34 seconds.
Oh, well, Kazuma always used to say, you see, that he wanted to learn how the greatest justice system in the world worked so he could change ours in Japan. Now that he's gone, I'd like to work towards that myself. And there's another thing. Oh.
Another thing? Continue.
On the way here, on the steamship, he said something to me.
There's something very important that I have to do. Something very important. And what exactly would that be?
He never had a chance to tell me. I suppose he would have done if he'd ever made it to Great Britain.
You're out of time. Well, thank you for an enlightening discussion.
Mr. Naruhodo, what's all this about? Mr. Asogi never once mentioned anything of the sort to me.
I urge you both to focus your attentions on the matter at hand. I've taken the liberty of summoning the police inspector in charge of the case. He'll be able to apprise you of the details.
How long has he been there?
So, So, I wish you the best of luck, and bid you farewell.
There's something very important that I have to do. Kazuma-sama, what did you mean? I wish I knew, but honestly, he never told me. Anyway, we'd better talk to the detective, don't you think? Yes, you're right. I hope I'm just imagining it, but I wouldn't say he looks pleased to see us at all. Alrighty, now that I do have time to examine, let's just... Look at these menacing metal giants facing each other across the room. Now I want to just... I believe they're... Yes, they're suits of armor. I don't know if this is exactly the same as before. Oh, right. We did say that before. Oh, yeah. Okay. That is similar to what we had before. And the clock and the desk and all that. Let's talk to this guy. Alright, so... Because of his look... Oh, man. What should he sound like? Could we trouble you? Okay, if anyone in the chat... If anyone watching cares... I'm trying to decide between a Michael Caine-like guy or a John Cleese-like guy. So if anyone has any preference, state it now and I will do that. I will wait for 10 seconds. Wow, it's a loud engine over there. Hey, I'm streaming here. Alright, no response. Let's go Michael Caine and see how well I can pull that off. I reserve the right to say it's not Michael Caine. Inspired by Michael Caine. What do you think? Lovely weather, isn't it? What's the weather got to do with anything? Listen to me, you young Japanese upstart. Some frippery about the weather. It doesn't get every English gent eating on your hand, you know. But Sato-san told me it was foolproof. I'm a busy man, a very busy man. As a crime scene investigator, I'm here having to give the likes of you a talking to. Oh, I'm ever so sorry. Can you imagine what the other officers there will be saying, Haven't seen Gregson anywhere, have you? No, he's too busy with the bigwigs these days. And all because of some bumpkin who's here in a jaunt from a country I've never even heard of. Hear that ripping sound? That's my reputation at the yard going to tatters. There's no need to rip us apart as well. I don't believe we've been introduced. This is Mr. Ryunosuke Naruhodo, a defense lawyer. Hey. It's a pleasure to make your acquaintance. I'm Mr. Naruhodo's judicial assistant. Hey? It's lovely weather we're having today, isn't it?
It is unseasonably fine, I grant you. London winters don't see a lot of sunshine.
Unbelievable. How'd she pull that off?
So, Lord Strongler has asked me to fill you in on the case. The name's Tobias Gregson. Inspector Gregson to you. I'm from Scotland Yard.
Gregson? Inspector Gregson. What's the matter with Sato-san? Does this detective's name mean something to her? Inspector, are you perhaps the Inspector Gregson? It just eats. You're acting like you know this man, Mr. Sato, but he's a London detective. Oh, I do know him. Very well, in fact. Very well? Yes, he features prominently in the adventures of Sherlock Sholmes. Oh, in that publication. What's it called again? Rant's magazine? That's right. Inspector Gregson and Mr. Sholmes enjoy a wonderful friendly rivalry. Really? You rival the great Mr. Sholmes? That's incredible. Oh, well, I don't know about that. Mr. Sholmes isn't a professional like myself, of course, but he does come out with the goods from time to time. Mr. Sholmes is equally complimentary about you, Inspector, isn't he? You've earned his highest praise. Gregson is the pick of a bad lot of all the Scotland Yarders. Those were his own words. That's his highest praise? Well, Mr. Sholmes isn't particularly known for giving compliments, you see.
That he is not, and thanks to that magazine, my name's known all over London town now.
That's great, isn't it?
I have to admit that to start with I was a little, well, flattered by all the intention. Or flattered. Everyone wanted to shake my hand and my reputation at the yard went through the roof.
Well, that's wonderful.
No, it is not. There's nothing more sinister than the man on the street. People are always looking at me now. They're whispering rumors about me under their breath, I'm sure.
Rumors? Are you quite sure?
He's changed since he started appearing in those stories. The fame's gone to his head. Stuff like that.
Gosh, do you really think people are saying such mean-spirited things about you?
Like I said, they whisper, so I can't catch exactly what they're saying. I know what folk are like. I'm sure that's what they're saying. As sure as eggs is eggs.
I get the feeling this detective could be very hard work. Oh dear, perhaps a sudden rise to fame does change people. Alright, the case. So, about the case that the Lord Chief Justice mentioned before.
None to tell, really. As far as we're concerned at the yard, it couldn't be simpler.
Oh dear, that probably means that as far as we're concerned as lawyers, it couldn't be more complicated. I wish you were wrong about that, but I have a nasty feeling you're right.
Young woman was walking along the pavement on Briar Road when she was stabbed from behind. Fortunately, it wasn't fatal, but she's still laid up in hospital unconscious.
That's despicable. What sort of coward would attack the poor woman from behind? I suppose you would have finished whoever it was off with a Susato takedown, would you? That is neither here nor there, Mr. Naruhodo. Brace yourself, Yonosuke. You've angered her now.
Anyways, after something of a whirlwind investigation, the criminal was arrested. He barely had time for a cup of tea after the incident took place, to be honest.
So, there must have been something left at the scene that led you directly to the culprit. Or perhaps a reliable witness who recognized the person in question.
Let me stop you right there. You're wasting your time on this one.
Sorry?
There's nothing you can do. There's no way to help the bloke now.
Why ever not?
Simple. The prosecutor that's been assigned to the trial tomorrow is Lord Beric von Zeeks.
No.
Sounds like you heard of him then. Heard of him then. Heard of him. Then, oh geez, can't quite get that out right.
Oh yes, we are very familiar with Lord Van Zeeks. Believed to be the harbinger of death itself. The Reaper of the Bailey. Lord Beric von Zeeks. Or is it Beric or Barak? Let's go with Beric. Beric van Zeeks, who we faced in court only yesterday. Mr. McGill had told us about him before the trial, didn't he? When Van Zeeks stands for the prosecution, they call the accused his sacrificial lambs. And in every single trial in which he's been the prosecutor, the accused has been damned. This Reaper of the Bailey nickname. I suppose he's earned that because every defendant he advocates against is found guilty. Is that it? That look. It's like, you think, jackass? Well, if that's the case, we should inform you, Inspector, that in yesterday's trial against Lord Van Zeeks, Mr. Naruhodo secured a verdict of not guilty.
What of it?
Oh, well, I think that means that even against the Reaper of the Bailey, it's not impossible to save the defendant.
Now, you really don't have a clue, do you?
What do you mean? He pockets the fries, or the chips.
What happened to that bloke in the end, huh? He's dead.
Ah.
Magnus McGildy came a cropper in that omnibus when he went up in flames.
Came a cropper. That must be rhyming slang.
So you can't rightly say you saved the defendant, can you?
What are you saying?
Look, if Van Zeeks could get the dirt to stick on everyone, he'd be a miracle worker. That's not how it goes. He doesn't work miracles, he works magic. Black magic. I'd have a good long think about that if I were you.
Are we really supposed to believe that? It's always nice when a character's like idle animation involves eating something compulsively. It was pretty good for Emma as well.
Right. Well, I filled you in as requested, and I'm very nearly out of chips. I'll be heading back down to the crime scene now. We're still carrying out a few investigations there.
It was Briar Road, you said, didn't you? Where the incident took place.
That's correct, ma'am. If you head over to the holding cells, you can meet the criminal himself.
You've branded him a criminal already?
He's good as. Shaking like a leaf in his cell, he is. I'd give you a chuckle if nothing else. He's inmate 53. Speak to the jailer and he'll show you the way.
Inmate 53. Thank you. So there's no helping anyone against the Reaper of the Bailey, they say. Is something troubling you, Mr. Naruhodo? To tell the truth, when I recall the trial yesterday, I can't stop myself from shaking. The idea of facing the Reaper in court again is... Well, if you think it's too much for you, there's no shame in turning the case down. That takes courage, too. But if the man they've arrested is innocent, you could well imagine he would be shaking like a leaf in his cell. And I, for one, wouldn't find the sight of that funny. So. Oh, that's a weird so. Does Sato just interrupted to say so? That's a weird bit of script. If I'm honest, I'm still reeling from the shock of yesterday's events myself. I'm really not sure if I'll be able to help this man, whoever he is. But I like to try, so I think I'm going to make some inquiries. Will you help? Did you really think you had to ask? After all, I am your judicial assistant. Thank you. So then, shall we? Yes. Let's go! I like that animation. Let's get out of here. To Briar Road, the scene of the crime. And, oh wait, we could go to either of these. Let's go to the prison cells. I always like talking to the guy first. That's a jail cell, alright. So these are British prison cells. They look very generic and typical. Oh, they're ghastly. Feels just like a dungeon. Yes, and having experienced it in Japan myself, I can assure you that our wooden cells feel a lot cozier than those cold stone walls. Oh, don't, Mr. Naruhodo. You're making it seem worse. Apparently, our client is in this cell here. But it's so dark at the back there, I can't make him out. I wonder what he's like.
Inmate 53, your legal representative is here to see you. Stop hiding in the back of the cell and show your face at once.
Am I don't know who the... Am I a cat as yet with no name? Calling me by a number, and it's utterly, unbelievably, unjustly unreasonable. I want to know what this guy looks like before I commit to a voice. I refuse to answer. Mr. Naruhodo, what do you think is going on here? I have no idea. But I wasn't just hearing things, was I? That tirade of complaints was in Japanese. Whoa, really? It's Joseph Joestar. Oh, wait, no. Jonathan Joestar. Excuse me. Shh. Quiet. Now, this guy should be John Cleese.
All around, hiding. I know they are. They're watching, listening. Even now, I can sense it.
Right. So, could I ask you who...
There you are! You've come to curse me, haven't you? Don't try to hide it. You're a ghost.
A ghost? This guy's paranoid, man. We mean you no harm, prisoner-son. Are you... Japanese, by any chance? Korewa... Beyond my wildest dreams! I don't know the Japanese for that.
Forgive me for that outburst before. I'm so sorry.
Oh, it's fine. We were just a little surprised, that's all.
Imagine it! It's been 12 long months since I left my hometown, and here I am in a frightful fix in a foreign land.
Oh, it's only been 12 months. I was hoping that he grew up in here. But I guess that wouldn't make any sense given the time period. There's no time for a Japanese guy to have come here and grown up. So his British accent should be all that thick. But it's more fun to be John Cleese than a vaguely Japanese person.
So hearing the sweet, sentimental tones of a compatriot's voice here in this damp, dark hellhole was a most monumentally moving moment.
Who could have guessed that this new client Lord Strongheart assigned to us would turn out to be a fellow Japanese?
What compassion my fellow countrymen show. To dispatch a first-class lawyer all the way from Japan to defend a mere foreign student. Noble, nurturing, never-failing Nippon. It's very strange now that I'm forcing a British accent onto this character, but okay, whatever.
A first-class lawyer? Oh dear, I think there's been something of a misunderstanding here. I wonder, would you be so kind as to tell us what's happened? Why you've been detained as a suspect, for example.
Yes, I can, I will. Shan't stay sullen and silent.
I'm not quite sure I understand what he means, but he seems happy. Yes, he does. I just hope he actually has a good reason to be. Thank you for your cooperation. I am a lawyer, as you said. My name is Ryunosuke Naruhodo. And I am Naruhodo-san's judicial assistant, Susato Mikotoba.
I am a visiting student sent here by our government. Notably, notoriously named Natsume. Soseki Natsume.
Oh, wait. I'm not here to present. Oh, I can only converse. I can't examine this cell. Alright, fine. That makes things easy for me. Soseki Natsume-san. What an unusual name.
Call me Soseki, please. I'm a poet, you see, a writer of haiku. It's something of a nom de plume.
A nom de plume? You mean an alias? And more literally, it's a pen name. That's right, Naruhodo-san.
No, 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 don't be so prosaic. It's much more refined than that.
And haiku, that really reminds me of home. Did I hear you say that you're a visiting student sent over here by the government?
Yes, yes, that's right. A year ago I was told to go and study English. And for the purposes of this playthrough, I studied it very well and learned very quickly. First I had to suffer that misery, and now this! It's beyond the pale.
Suffer that misery? Did you not want to study here?
No, I mean, I've had an interest in Great Britain for some years, of course.
Oh.
But just because the government tells you to do something doesn't mean you can do it. No.
What do you mean?
If they told me to study English literature, that I could have understood. That's my field. But no, they told me to study the English language. Utterly, unbelievably, unjustly unreasonable.
I see.
Only the other day I was told to send a report about my first year here. I tendered a blank piece of paper. Wise words on whitewashi.
You must be a man of great standing.
Oh yes, so I'm often told.
And often like to be told, it seems. Interesting. Could you perhaps tell us exactly why you've been arrested, Soseki-san?
I didn't do it. I didn't commit that atrocious murder.
Murder?
Oh, no, it's all right. The woman didn't actually die, did she? But she was stabbed with a knife right before my eyes.
Before your eyes? You mean you saw the attacker?
I didn't see anyone.
What?
If I'd seen the person who did it, do you think I'd be locked up in here?
Oh dear, it seems this case is becoming rather complicated.
Why me? Why me? Why did that silly woman have to be stabbed in front of me? It's the curse of London. It's incredibly, inexcusably, irritatingly inconvenient.
So Soseki-san was there at the scene, but he didn't see the attacker. It's vital that we find out more about the case. Let's go. What do we got?
It was an accursed evening, just after the snow had started to clear and heavy with fog. I'd been to the bookshop to buy some books, and I was on my way back to my accursed lodgings.
Sure the bookshop wasn't accursed too?
As I was walking along that accursed pavement, I could make out the sole silhouette of another ahead of me. A woman, wearing a green overcoat, she was. And just as I went to overtake her, she suddenly let out a little scream and collapsed onto the cold, hard slabs of stone at my feet.
How terrible.
I called out to the woman, but she didn't move. It was like a ghostly, ghoulish graveyard.
Slight exaggeration there, perhaps?
I was terrified. I had to get away from there. So I ran, as fast as my legs would carry me, back to my accursed lodgings.
That's not good.
They'll say it was shameful, I know, to run away like that.
Tell me, Soseki-san, was the victim an acquaintance of yours?
Don't be ridiculous. Do you think I know any of these fair-haired English, and a young woman at that? I'm diffident, shy, timid, unsure. I can't talk to people.
I see. A young woman unknown to Soseki-san. And at the time it happened, who else did you see nearby? Did anybody pass you?
Regrettably, apart from myself and the woman, I didn't see a soul.
No one. Great. So the victim was unknown to you and there was nobody else on the street at the time. That creates something of a conundrum, doesn't it? What conundrum? Oh, 4 conversational pieces. What do you mean, Sasato-san? What's a conundrum? Well, if what Soseki-san has just told us is true, there's something I can't explain. He says that he didn't know the victim and that there was no one else at the scene. Then he apparently fled without having been seen.
I did.
But if that's the case, surely this man has to be the culprit.
Ah, you! What did you just say?
Nothing. I didn't say anything. Oops. Perhaps I thought that a little loudly. People are hearing my thoughts. Wait, hold on. Yeah, that was me thinking. Why are people hearing my thoughts? That's actually kind of creepy that everyone is hearing my thoughts. Actually, that's not what was troubling me. What I was thinking was, how did Soseki-san actually come to be arrested? Sorry? He didn't touch the victim, and there was nobody at the scene to see him. So how did the police ever discover that he was there in the first place? Oh yes, she's right.
It was him. That accursed great detective. He led the police to me. Of all the bad luck.
Accursed great detective? Could it be?
I shall never forget that man's name as long as I live. With his hearty laugh and his self-proclaimed greatness. Brash, big-headed busybody, be gone. May you be cursed until the end of your days, hairlock Sholmes.
I knew it. Mr. Sholmes? Oh, shoot. Well, I didn't expect to hear that name from this man's lips, that's for sure.
It was the morning after that nightmare had unfolded on the pavement before me. I was gnawing on a sliver of hard cheese when some meds suddenly burst in through the door. They started shouting at me, "This is the police! Put the weapon down!" Yes, it was a thin sliver, and yes, it was hard, but I wasn't eating a weapon. Disgusting dietary discrimination devils.
You clearly had a trying morning yesterday.
And there he was, in the middle of all the policemen, grinning like a Cheshire cat. That hairlock Sholmes.
It's actually just Herlock Sholmes. He's English.
I have since found out that he's a famous name in detection here in London.
Yes, the great detective is really very well known.
And his overly sharp mind managed to deduce my whereabouts, apparently. He thinks I'm the knife-wielding madman. Me, this weak, stooped kitten of a man.
I wonder what great deduction process led him to his conclusion this time. Do you mean to say that Mr. Sholmes' deduction was the only reason the police arrested you? That would be really most unreasonable.
Well, the thing is, I was thrown into a panic when they barged their way in.
Of course you were. That's only natural.
I was terrified and trembling, and they kept throwing question after question at me in impossible English. Fiendish foreign flim-flammery.
Well, we are in England, you can't really blame them for questioning you in English.
Good point, but my mind went blank. I knew I had to answer, but I didn't know what to say. So I just kept repeating things like, yes, I do, and I'm fine. Next thing I knew, I was in manacles. Before I knew it, I was thrown in here.
Oh dear. I'm afraid that's hardly surprising. I'm fine? He's not fine now.
Mr. Naruhodo, Esquire.
Oh, you can just call me Naruhodo. And when we're speaking English, a simple Mr. is more than enough.
Oh, yes, alright. Yes, they've really got to me. This country's poisoning my mind. But please, I beg you to defend me in court tomorrow. You can tell them what really happened. You'll do it, won't you?
Well,
Why? Why? Why is it so hard to say yes to me?
well, the thing is, I'm just a student like yourself, on a study tour.
A student?
I've defended a case in the Old Bailey, only the one, though. But at this moment in time, I really don't know what I'm supposed to believe in. I'm confused about what justice in this country even means. Wow, we're getting really meta or philosophical here all of a sudden. Oh, Naruhodo-san. I'm not even the foreign student who was supposed to be here. I'm a sort of locum lawyer, I suppose.
But that armband, that's the mark of a defense lawyer from our great empire.
It's a keepsake from a man who should have been here. He was my best friend.
The keepsake. I know exactly what they're saying about me.
Oh, who do you mean?
The lawyers, all the British defense lawyers. They won't defend me.
Goodness. Why do you say that?
For the same reason as you noted before. When it happened, there was only the victim and myself around, and I ran away from the scene of the crime. I'm not a fool. I know it looks as though I must be the culprit.
It must be very hard for you, Soseki-san.
And anyway, I'm a student from overseas. I'm just a foreign nobody to them. Someone not to be trusted. I heard them openly laughing about me before, in my earshot, without any compunction at all. Any trial for this man would be a waste of time, they said. And of course the foreigner did it. Even had the gall to say, the man doesn't understand half of what's being said anyway.
Oh, this is awful. I mean, me giving him this accent, like, really belies how racist they're being. If I could convincingly pull off a guy who's only learned English for a year, that would probably fit better. But I'm having too much fun doing this John Cleese voice, I'm sorry. That's awful.
They're wrong. I've studied more English than half of the policemen out there on the streets.
Oh, okay, he's refuting it. Fine. This is good enough. I believe in John Cleese. Or at least this voice. Whatever this is, it's not quite John Cleese.
I've traveled halfway around the world to learn about these people's country and its great history. But no one here wants to listen to a man with a strange accent. They all hate me. Yes, the accent that sounds like this guy, so at the very least, I like to entrust my fate to someone who can listen to me in my native tongue. You could do it, couldn't you? When I look into your eyes, I can see it. I can see what you've been through.
Soseki-san, it's just that... Give me a little time, please.
Hmm?
I'll do what I can, for the time being.
What do you mean?
We shall investigate the case as thoroughly as possible. If we can find some clues, It will give us a much better chance, I'm sure.
Oh, yes, yes. Thank you. I'll be here, all alone, waiting for you, locum student Mr. Naruhodo Esquire.
We should be going then, Naruhodo-san. We have a case to prepare for. Alright, we've done all that. Let's present this armband.
Yes, yes, the symbol of one of our great empire's first-rate lawyers. Which means, of course, you'll stand by my side. You'll defend me.
Oh, no, sorry, that wasn't why I was showing it to you.
Then why else would you show me that?
Oops. In hindsight, that probably wasn't the best idea. Oh, you know what? Let's take a quick gander at this. I wonder what they say about it, like, from case to case. It's usually a little different. These are the scales of justice. They're symbol of defense, aren't they? Yes, that's right. The scales are a symbol of fairness, to show that all are treated equally in the eyes of the law. Okay, this is actually similar to what was happening before. Yes. That is something that we read before. Okay, fine, never mind. Does it say Cosmo in there? Oh, it does. I didn't see that before. The lawyer's name is embroidered on the inside here. Look. Kazuma Asogi. This was his band, of course. He had his heart set on the study tour in Great Britain. I'm sure he would have found the truth he longed for here. But he lost his life before he even had the chance to see the place. I have such a strong sense of his hopes and dreams when I look at this armband, though. Indeed, the scales really are like a badge. The backing behind it is that same flower. I don't know if they say it's a sunflower originally, because it never quite looked like a like what I believe a sunflower to look like. Oh yeah, we got people. Yep. Epitome of a refined Japanese lady. Right. There's a term for that. Lord Chief Justice, sets male, strong heart, bias. He loves fish and chips. And here is Natsume. Perfect. No. To Briar Road. Let's find out what we can find out here. We'll probably run into Herlock or something, maybe. So this is where it happened. Briar Road. Ah! Look, Mr. Naruhodo. Look at that regulation metal helmet. It's unmistakable. The men of Scotland Yard are here. They're investigating as we speak. That is their job, you know. But, Mr. Naruhodo, to see one with my own eyes. The way I said Naruhodo was really weird. They're often depicted in the adventures of Herlock Sholmes, but I've never dreamt I'd ever come this close. To a real Bobby's helmet. Oh, they are Bobbies! Woo! I remember the name. What? The helmet? Hee hee. Of course, I have to try one on one day. Well, I hope your Hattie dream comes true. Hey, it's Gregson.
What the Japanese delegation doing here?
Oh, Inspector Gregson.
This isn't on the tourist trail, as I'm fairly sure you're well aware.
Yes, of course. We're here to investigate.
Oh, you've been in the holding cells then? What'd you make of the criminal?
He's not a criminal as you put it, Inspector. He's a suspect.
We'll see about that. You Japanese like to stick together, I suppose. Well, do what you will. Doesn't bother me. Bloke's in court tomorrow, whatever happens, and the verdict's a foregone conclusion.
Ugh, stone cold air rejection. Take heart. London at this time of year is full of stone cold air. That makes it worse somehow. Let's examine. Starting from here. What is this? Strand Street. That's a rather typical old brick building, isn't it? I'm sure it has a long and interesting history. Well, time certainly seems to have taken its toll on the place. It's crooked and sagging all over. In fact, it looks in decidedly worse shape than the other houses around here. We must find some cheap lodgings ourselves as soon as possible. Yes, you're right. Cheap, but ideally with reasonably level floors. I like when a huge chunk of the map of the scene can be covered by a single thing. Wait. This part's not. Is it the windows? Yeah. Oh, look at the windows of that building there. Are you sure they're windows? Yes, but they're all filled in with bricks. Oh, you're right. I wonder why. Perhaps it's an empty property where nobody lives at the moment. There's smoke coming from the chimneys, though. Oh dear, everything still feels very foreign. There's so much we have to learn about this place. Okay. Let's check this little bike here. Oh, a British bicycle, look! Although the wheel is so misshapen, I'm sure it couldn't possibly be ridden anymore. Someone must have been doing some breakneck cycling. It seems bicycles have become extremely popular in London recently. There's even a movement to change women's dress to allow them to ride as well. Oh, that is an actual thing. I remember, I think it was Kate Beaton, noted, well, she used to draw a lot of comics. I don't know if she still does now. But, she was a big history buff, and she told her fans about this before. A bicycle fad won't last. I don't see why anyone would want to ride something like that. Goodness, do you dislike bicycles? No, not at all. I mean, it's not that I dislike them exactly. It's just that any occupation that involves taking both your feet off firm ground seems reckless. If you'd ever tried walking on stilts and fallen into a river, I know you'd agree with me. I say in a very specific manner. We'll have to hire a bicycle sometime. You can sit behind me while I ride you around. Ride me around? What are you talking about? What kind of phrasing is that? Smoke. Clouds look so big and heavy in the sky, don't they? And with the dense fog as well, everything looks hazy. Well, it is known as Foggy London Town. I can just make out some sort of spire through the fog. Looks like it's still being built, though. Like some sort of Millennium Tower. Ah, yes. That must be the Crystal Tower being built for the Great Exhibition that's to open in 6 months' time. Apparently it's going to be very striking, glazed on all sides and the symbolic centerpiece of the exhibition. It's to be the largest exposition in history, is it? I can't even begin to imagine. What about this? You see all the black smoke rising from the chimneys over there? It says here that in Great Britain, many people heat their homes in winter using coal. The only chimneys I really remember seeing in Japan were on top of the bathhouse. Do you think some of those houses could be on fire? Not at all. Well, even so, that much thick smoke billowing up to the heavens is surely going to turn the whole sky black sooner or later. Gosh, you may be right about that. Okay. All that is a single thing. The entire sky is a single thing. The street is checkable. There are piles of snow on the pavement here and there, but the road itself is covered in carriage tracks. It seems carriages often travel down Briar Road. It soon disperses all the snow. I slipped over when I was walking down the pavement earlier. Seems like it'd be far safer to walk on the road instead. Oh, but you're rather small, Mr. Naruhodo, and dressed all in black. I worry coachmen might not see you and you could be flattened by horses. Well, thank you for the rather small concern. I think that is all the pieces worth checking out in this side of the map. Let's try... check out that snowman? Snowman. What a delightful snowman. Or snowman. Not everyone's pronounced it snowman. I didn't realize the English had a tradition of making a snowman as well. Looks a little creepy though. Oh, it has a scarf, look! You'd need one if you're out in this freezing cold all the time. I wish I had one. I'm afraid our budget is somewhat frozen at the moment, too. We certainly can't afford a scarf. Surely the snowman here wouldn't miss his. But the person who made the snowman certainly would. Yes, I know, you're right. Also, you read my mind again. Anyway, even if I borrowed it, it wouldn't do much to warm my neck, would it? It's covered in snow. Yeah, then why'd I pretend that I was? I guess you would pretend a lot just to make a bad joke. It happens. I've done it. That's one of the officers from Scotland Yard. The police are making sure the crime scene is undisturbed. I have a feeling if we wander too close, we'll be clapped in irons. I think perhaps you're being a little overcautious. We've done nothing wrong, so we have no cause for concern. Oh no, I'm not getting caught out again. Oh no, I'm not getting caught out again. Twice is enough. Twice I found myself in handcuffs despite not knowing a thing about what was going on. Yes, you've had some dreadful experiences. I'm sure that it's that wide-eyed look of panic you're so prone to. It does you no favors at all. Dang, she went right for me. She called me the F out. Okay, both of these guys are the same checkable... Wait a minute, what's this? This patch of pavement must be where the incident occurred. Yes, it's a very wide open space, isn't it? That's true. You can't see anywhere an attacker could have been hiding. Oi! What are you foreigners doing here? Ah. Oh, just investigating the scene, officer. Conspiring with that mustache fella from Japan, are you? Conspiring? Come here to destroy the evidence, have you? Get out of here before I give you an hiding. Go on. He shoot us away like rats. Yes, we should give him a wide berth, I think. What a disappointing experience. Aw, she liked you. She was a fan of you from the books, and you're nothing like how she imagined. Oh, that's the Scotland Yard carriage. They use vehicles like that to rush to crime scenes and cart away criminals. You're very well informed, aren't you? It's long been a dream of mine to ride one of those through the streets of London. Well, just pick up a stone and throw it through one of the windows then. But that would mean being arrested in order to ride it. Oh boy. Yawning, sorry. Wouldn't it? Still, if it's the only way, help me find a good stone. No, I wasn't serious. Alright, this guy is not... yeah. Is there any component that I have yet to check? I think I've talked to all these people. Alright, let's see. Tell me about Scotland Yard, Inspector. Ever since I read about it in The Adventures of Sherlock Holmes, I've been fascinated by the place. The Yard is the most sophisticated policing organization you'll find anywhere in the world, ma'am. Oh, and you know I've always dreamt of wearing a real Bobby's helmet. It does make them look the part. Seeing that policeman there with his helmet on, you certainly get the sense that this is a man who will take no nonsense in his duty of protecting the city. Hey, William Shamspeare, you're back. Oh yes, doesn't he look wonderful?
Being a London Bobby is hard going, I can tell you.
Oh really?
First thing in the morning, you know what he does? Goes round and rouses all the labourers on his beat so they can get off to work.
What? He wakes people up?
Yep, raps on their windows with a long pole. Did myself going back a bit.
I had no idea.
Bobby works for the people of the town. It's just another one of his duties. After that, he starts tirelessly patrolling the streets all day long. He has to cover 20 miles a day. That's the regulation distance.
Can't really imagine how far that is, but it sounds like a long way. Let me see. 20 miles. That's approximately the distance from Tokyo to Yokohama. On foot? That's definitely taking things a step too far.
And when it gets dark, of course, he has the important job of lighting all the guy's street lamps.
Oh my. And I suppose in between all of those duties, Bobbies are expected to investigate cases as well? And chase after criminals that are trying to evade the law?
I'm not sure you could call it in between exactly. More alongside. But yes. They're expected to handle those jobs as well. We do have men killing over from time to time, I admit.
I'd always dreamt of wearing one of those helmets, as I said. But it's with a heavy heart that I shall have to relinquish that dream to you, Mr. Naruhodo. Your heavy heart will be my heavy head if you do.
About the case. It happened around 5 in the evening, 2 days ago. Just there on that open bit of pavement. The victim, a young woman, was stabbed with the blade from behind.
Is it right that the lady is still unconscious now? You mentioned that she's being treated in the hospital. Or in hospital.
I never said she was a lady. Truth is, unless she comes around pretty smartish, we won't be able to find out much about her at all.
I suppose that means they've been able to take a statement from her, of course. Or that they haven't been able to take a statement from her, of course.
Here's a map of the local area I happen to have on me. You can take it if you want.
Really? Are you sure?
It's your policy to give lawyers defending suspects the odd bit of information to go on.
I haven't actually accepted the job yet, but still. Thank you, Inspector. We gratefully accept. Okay.
Anyway, as far as we know, there was no one else at the scene other than the victim and your fellow countrymen. So who did it, do you think? Not much of a head scratcher, is it?
Well, I know Mr. Natsume is also claiming not to have seen anyone else around, but just because he didn't see anyone, it doesn't mean he can be sure that nobody else was present.
So I'd have to tell you, but we most certainly can be sure.
How?
Because, ma'am, the precise moment of the stabbing didn't go unnoticed.
What?
We have 2 very reliable witnesses, no less. It was a typical foggy London day, and your client obviously didn't see him.
There were witnesses now? Who are these witnesses, Inspector?
Fellow and his wife. And the man's one of the most reliable and respected citizens in all of London. He's a copper from Scotland Yard.
Ah. A policeman. That might change things. And this policeman just happened to be there at the exact moment the woman was attacked?
Nothing peculiar about that, ma'am. Part and parcel of being a bobby.
Catching them banging the act and all that. Do you think it might be possible for us to ask that policeman a few questions?
Be my guest. You can ask him what you like. In court tomorrow. Oh. I no doubt he'll be summoned as a witness. So, that'll give you something to look forward to.
That's that then. He's got no intention of letting us meet the man beforehand, it seems. Policeman witnessed the incident. As your judicial assistant, I must warn you that this could make our job very difficult indeed. Yes, as a non-judicial assistant, I could have warned me of that too. Oh yes, one more thing, Inspector.
What?
The person who led you to the suspect. I hear that was Mr. Herlock Sholmes.
What are you bringing him up for? What are you bringing him up for?
Was it something I said? The colors drained from his cheeks.
Let's talk about tomorrow's trial still. That twitchy Japanese bloke goes on trial tomorrow. You going to defend him or not?
Well,
makes no difference to me, but I will just say this. No London lawyer with his salt would touch that case with a barge pole.
Because the prosecution is being handled by the Reaper of the Bailey, you mean?
There's no way to save the man now. It's a waste of time trying. It's all a bit strange, though.
Sorry?
The Reaper. He hadn't appeared in court once for a good few years now.
Yes, we did hear something to that effect.
The only people he usually bothers with are the real scum. The master criminals. The violent ones.
Master criminals? The violent ones?
That's right. He handpicks his victims. Only deals with those guaranteed to go to the gallows for their sins.
But Mr. Natsume wouldn't hang for what he's accused of, surely.
That's just my point, sunshine. Yes, this young woman was stabbed, but didn't kill her. Couldn't even say the intent was there. So this isn't the sort of case I'd be expecting the Reaper to want to sink his teeth into, for want of a better phrase.
Well, it's not exactly a minor infraction, is it?
No, there's got to be more to it. Some reason he's taken an interest.
Really? What sort of reason, Inspector?
Think that I can tell what's going on inside the head of that Lord of Darkness? You'll have to ask him yourself at tomorrow's trial.
Are we really going to have to face the Reaper again? The Lord of Darkness, as he put it. Wait, what did I say? Lord of Darkness, that's right.
Where'd you hear that name from?
Oh, well, it was Mr. Natsume who mentioned it. He said that Mr. Sholmes was with the police when they entered his lodgings. I'm sure it was a result of one of Mr. Sholmes' inspirational great deductions.
Fatal faddle.
Ah.
The man's an amateur. I'm getting sick and tired of him showing his mug everywhere.
Oh.
Don't know where he gets his information from, but he turns up at the scene of the crime, wanders around spouting incomprehensible rubbish, and before you know it, he claims to have solved the case.
Yes, he's quite astounding, isn't he? He is a great help to Scotland Yard, though, isn't he?
Gibble gabble.
Ah!
Ever seen this before?
Oh, yes, that's Rant's magazine. The wonderful publication in which the adventures of Herlock Sholmes appears.
Yes, well, that wonderful publication, as you put it, sees fit to include several of the Yard's detectives in its stories. And the so-called great detectives Or the so-called great detective makes a mockery of all of us. If you ask anyone at the yard, it's a misadventure to be included in any Sherlock Holmes tale at all.
Well, I suppose there is an element of that.
We work our socks off, every one of us, only to be fronted by the public thanks to that obnoxious detective. Man's as dangerous to us at Scotland Yard as he is to all our criminals.
That can't really be true, can it, Inspector? Clearly, the great detective and the police have a complex relationship. Well, I don't think we're going to get any more useful information out of the detective. Mr. Naruhodo, can I make a suggestion? Oh, yes, what is it? Well, it seems to me that we must speak with him about this. By him, do you mean Mr. Sholmes? Yes, Mr. Sherlock Sholmes, exactly. Look at those shining eyes. You can't wait, can you? Well, Mr. Natsume did blame Mr. Sholmes for all of this, didn't he? Yes, he did. He really did. Which makes him an involved party in the case. Are you just going to ignore that? I hope not. I assure you, it's not simply my selfish desire to meet with Mr. Sholmes again. The trouble is, we have no idea of the man's address, even. So how... It's Baker Street. How do you know that? It's in the stories, of course. 221B Baker Street, the most famous address in the world. Yep, world famous. Oh, I see. Well, there's nothing to stop us from going, I suppose. We'd better try to find our way there before Satsu-san gets any more excited and unpredictable. Hurrah! I'll summon a carriage. So we're to have a reunion already. With the great detective, Mr. Sherlock Sholmes. I want to show you my badge, Gregson. Inspector Gregson, could I show you this?
Am I supposed to know what that is? I've never seen that insignia before.
It's worn by defense lawyers in the Empire of Japan, as a symbol of their profession.
In other words, it's a worthless trinket here in Great Britain.
Oh no, it's very important to me. It shows my spirit.
An English gentleman keeps things like his spirit very much to himself, I'll have you know.
Oh. Don't give up, Mr. Naruhodo. It's too late. He's crushed my spirit already. Okay, the map. Oh yeah, let's examine the map. Got Briar Road, Calabash, and Meerschaum Street. Meerschaum is perpendicular, Calabash is roughly parallel. Does not go beyond this page, so this will have to be relevant eventually. But let's see what he says about it. Thank you again for this.
Don't mention it. I had someone at the yard fish it out for me, and in the end I didn't need it.
Oh?
Well, the case could hardly be simpler, could it? I don't need a map to work out what happened. You can throw it away when you're done with it.
Ugh, cold. Alright, was I done examining? I think I actually was. I don't think there's anything left. Unless... Nope. Then we're moving now. Ooh, a new location has been added. Sick. Alright, let's find Mr. Sholmes. Cutscene in the middle of the episode. Or the chapter. It's goofy to see Ryunosuke actually carrying that sword around everywhere he goes.
It's just up there overlooking the street.
Good day. Thanks again. This is it. The residence of Mr. Herlock's showers.
It does make sense for these characters to also have a bit of a British accent, because all the English they would have learned would have been from Brits. But for the sake of my own, my own ease, I don't really do anything to my voice for Ryunosuke, at least. Accent-wise, anyhow. Baker Street, here we are. The Great Mouse Detective is right there in the corner. Wait, I forgot his name. What was the Great Mouse Detective's name? Marvin, what was the Great Mouse Detective's name? So this is where the Great Detective makes his living. Feels surreal to be here somehow. I wonder how much stuff in this background are like direct references to Sherlock stories. Is it as described in the stories, Mrs. Sato? Oh, she must be so hype. Sato-san. Many, many famous cases have been solved here in this very room. Oh, I suppose they must have been, yes. Right, it was Basil. Basil? I've never read the story, so it's hard to get quite as excited about it as she seems to be. The detective chases the villain relentlessly as he disappears into the fog down an unlit London street. Oh, the thrill of it, the romanticism. Can't you feel your heart thumping in your chest? Can't you, Mr. Naruhodo? Oh, I suppose I can, yes. So, if you don't mind, I'm going to turn on my heel. I'll just stand here and soak up the atmosphere for a while longer. Please don't mind me. She's obsessed. Where's Herlock? Well, it looks like our detective friend isn't home at present, but he did leave his door open. Excuse me, is anybody home? Oh, do we have a visitor? Hello, is it a big new case for Mr. Shones? Hello? Wait a minute, we know this girl. Wait, aren't you... Oh, how rude of me. I'll go and make some tea at once. I'm sure it's the same girl. Mrs. Sato, did you see the girl who's just here? Oh yes, isn't it truly extraordinary? To think that the King of Bohemia came to this very room to ask Mr. Shones to take on his case. The King of Bavaria? King Wilhelm Gottschalk Sigismund von Ormstein, of course. Or von Ormstein? King Wilhelm Gottschalk Sigismund von Ormstein. Of course. Sorry, I'm drawing a blank. Forget the adventures of Herlock Sholmes for a moment and look over there. The tea's brewed, and I have a freshly baked cake as well. Ah, it's you! I knew it. Susato-san recognizes her too. Ah, there you are! And taking that with you as well. I was looking forward to the trial run of my experimental smoke grenade launcher. Oh, good day to you. I'm, well, the inventor, I suppose, of that machine. It's the girl who turned up at the end of Mr. McGilded's trial in the defendant's antechamber. I've never met a lawyer from the Far East before. Poor you, having to get straight to work when you've only just arrived in London. Oh, yes, it was challenging. Well, try this tea. It's my special blend, you know. Oh, thank you. Is tea supposed to look that color? Oh my, what a fragrant yet mellow flavor. Hooray, it's a winner! I tried blending different leaves with Zanya alleviate fatigue, you see. You must be exhausted after your long voyage here, and you have another ticklish trial tomorrow. Oh, and you're to defend a Japanese man. I do wish you lots and lots of luck. Did Mr. Sholmes tell you about us by any chance? Oh, you know Hurley, do you? Hurley? Mr. Sholmes to you, surely. Mr. Sholmes to you, surely. Mr. Sholmes was a fellow passenger on the boat that brought us to Great Britain, you see. Was he really? Well, I had no idea. I'm afraid Hurley's out on an errand again today, even though he's just returned from overseas. Wait a minute. We met this girl for the first time ever yesterday after the trial, and only briefly at that. How on earth does she know so much about us? Did she deduce all those things, you think? Or did she deduce all those things, do you think? Yeah, it would probably be Shirley. And perhaps more to the point, why is she here in Mr. Sholmes' suite? Oh, silly me. I haven't introduced myself, have I? Classy bow. It's a great pleasure to meet you both. My name is Iris Wilson. I live here together with Hurley. Ah, Iris, is it? What a lovely name. What? What's the matter? No, wait, this can't be. Did you say that your name was Wilson? What's the matter with Susato-san? Why is she so flustered all of a sudden? Yes, that's right. And what are your names? Oh, I'm Ryunosuke Naruhodo, a lawyer from Japan. Oh, sorry. I'm Mr. Naruhodo's judicial assistant, Satomi Kotoba. It's wonderful to meet you. Lovely. Susie and Runo. Lovely. Susie and Runo. Got it. Susie? And Runo? There's more to this girl than meets the eye. I have so many questions for her. I don't know where to start. Yes, and so do I. Before we do that, there is a lot of things here. There's all sorts on these shelves. Chemistry apparatus, books, papers, and lots of things I've never seen before. It's all heaped up so high I can't help feeling that the whole lot's gonna topple at any moment. I keep telling Hurley not to cram so much on those shelves. Good advice. He wanted to look something up in one of those books a while ago, but it was so tightly wedged in he couldn't get it out, so he went and bought a new copy instead. Well, that's inefficient. All that is one thing. Ooh, the violin's different though, because it's special. I've seen pictures of Western musical instruments like this. It's called a violin, isn't it? Of course it is. Mr. Sholmes is renowned for his violin playing. Oh, really? Absolutely. It's often explained in the stories. It's inspirational, Mr. Naruhodo. Inspirational. I immediately started playing the koto, which was the closest Japanese stringed instrument I could find. What a shame you couldn't bring it with you to London. Oh yes, well, Papa was beaming when I asked him if he would buy me one. But after a while, he asked if I would only practice when he was out of the house. So now it's merely an ornament in my room. That's actually a really real thing. Like, parents who want to support their child in learning an instrument, and then they get the instrument, and then the child, you know, of course sucks at first, because everyone's supposed to suck at first, but the parent really can't deal with it, and so they kind of Parents have to grit their teeth and get through a period of shittiness when their kids start learning an instrument. That's just facts. So good on any parents who can withstand that. Because the end result is that you got a kid who knows how to play something, and that's cool. So good on you guys. So, it's merely an ornament in a room. That must have been an awkward conversation. That skull is not... So, what is this? Oh, you know what? It looks almost like the... that arch that has all those little circles in it looks very similar to what I think the Mass Inquisition graphic looked like in Leighton vs. Wright. I wonder if that's an intentional reference. I can't remember what it looked like exactly, but this does remind me of it strongly. What on earth is this huge over-the-top machine? That's the great analytoscope. It can analyze anything, really. Anything at all. That's absolutely incredible. It's one of Hurley's inventions. It took him a whole year. He said it was to help him with his investigations. What sort of things has he analyzed with it? Do you know? Well, actually, he hasn't used it for anything yet. Oh. Why not? Apparently, on the evening he finally completed it, it suddenly occurred to him, I don't actually have anything I need to analyze. Oh dear. How about you, Runo? Do you have anything you'd like to analyze? The only thing that springs to mind is this machine itself. Nothing about the chemistry or what's outside. All this stuff is... Okay, thank goodness there's not that many things to check. It's a lot of visual information, but not all of it is stuff that we need to take into consideration. I do like this fireplace. It's one of the best things I've seen since we arrived in this country, in fact. Lingering beside the fire and watching the flames flicker and dance in the grate. It's so relaxing. We can't relax, not when there's so many interesting things on the mantelpiece. Oh, it's just as it was described in the stories. It is? Yes, exactly. Inside that Persian slipper, for example. Are my chocolates for elevensies? And transfixed by that large jackknife is my shopping list for the market. Oh, it's not quite how I remember it being described in the Adventures of Sherlock Sholmes. Poor Sato-san, she looks crushed. We got a gramophone over here. Tea time. Looks like that huge metal chest is being used as a table for tea and coffee. Seems very sturdy with an equally sturdy lock. Mr. Naruhodo, you mustn't go around opening things. I always have to keep an eye on you, don't I? You're very mischievous. Or wait, no, mischievous. There's no I after V. I don't know if that... Can you look that up, Marvin, and check if Elevensies is real, like, beyond Tolkien? And in this era, in the Meiji era, I don't know if Tolkien had written any of his books yet. Or if he was alive. Someone look it up for me, please. How'd you come to that conclusion? Oh, that chest contains some of my most valuable things. And that smile tells me you're not going to give us any clue about what they are. More trinkets. A mystery shoe, a curious hammer, some mysterious dancing men, a bust of Napoleon. After World War II. Okay, there you go. Or that's when Tolkien wrote Lord of the Rings. So, Elevensies was not yet a thing in this era. Or at least Tolkien's version of it. I wonder if it really was a thing before then. Ah, what an entrancing collection. This is the first time in my life that I've seen a lonely old shoe displayed as an ornament.
Oh, those are mementos that Hurley has collected from his past cases.
Really? Even the bust?
Yes, that's right. When the mood takes him, he likes to throw it on the floor and smash it to dust.
The poor defenseless emperor? Mr. Sholmes destroys it. Marvin says 11Z's is real. Not Israel. I mean, like, Israel is in it, it's an actual thing.
Yes, and then he buys a new one.
You make it sound like he has the temperament of an insane sculptor.
Ah, how entrancingly bohemian of him.
Susato's so... She's simping hard, man. A third... Oh, man. Math.
Ah, that's my blackboard where I note down ideas.
Ooh, interesting. Let's see. Black Peter. What does that mean?
Don't you want to hear what Iris has to say, Mr. Naruhodo?
I'll come back to that blackboard later. Okay. What a beautiful English tea set. It's so neatly arranged.
It's a favorite pastime of mine, a cup of herbal tea in the afternoon.
Tea made from herbs.
That's right. I grow all sorts of herbs in the garden. I can experiment with different blends. One moment. Don't go away. I'll brew a pot of the special blend I came out with earlier today.
She looks delighted. I only hope it's safe to drink. That's a charming little white shelf, and full of charming little bottles, too.
Oh yes, but don't touch any of those. They might explode.
Explode?
Are they exotic chemicals? Do you use them for exciting experiments? Yes, indeed. And as Hurley always says, chemistry is an explosive science.
Sorry?
I agree. A single discovery can trigger an explosion of innovation all around the world.
Or perhaps he just meant it literally. Either way, mental note, do not touch any bottle that belongs to Iris. What on earth is that big black lump over there?
Ah, that fascinating thing is called a typewriter. It's a machine that allows you to write on paper without needing a pen. And wizardly quickly, too.
Oh, that sounds like it could be very useful for someone like me with terrible handwriting. Yo, no joke. If I couldn't type what I'm writing, I wouldn't write much at all, because my handwriting is very illegible. I have to put so much effort into making my handwriting legible if I want it to be legible. It's silly. It's ridiculous. I guess we've exhausted everything. I would have liked to learn about this collie, but I think we're done. We're done looking at everything. We've seen everything. I've seen it all. Alright, let's converse. Iris! It was you that we ran into yesterday, wasn't it? At the Old Bailey?
Yes, that's right. You were ever so helpful. Thank you so much.
Oh no, not at all. I'm so sorry we couldn't have been more welcoming. Though at the time, we did have a rather large gun pointed at us.
Like this?
Ah, thinking back now, you left with Miss Lestrade in tow, didn't you? Oh yes, that awkward witness, Gina Lestrade.
Oh, Ginny? Yes, she's a professional pickpocket.
So we found out.
It was very naughty of her to pinch my invention like that.
Are you referring to that trial-disrupting gun-like contraption?
Exactly. So I followed her, you see, to get it back. Perhaps I should think about fitting a self-destruct mechanism in my inventions.
This girl is dangerous.
Anyway, I brought Ginny back here after that, so she could apologize to my trusty technician. Sorry, your technician? Hurley, of course, silly. Really? Yes, Herlock. Herlock Sholmes. We live here together. I had no idea the great detective had such an interesting young daughter. Daughter? Not likely. What? I wouldn't call him Hurley if he was my father, would I? Well then, what is your relationship with Mr. Sholmes? Well, I expect you found out that lodgings of any kind in London are very expensive. So the solution is to share the cost with a partner, a roommate. Your roommates? I hope you don't mind me asking, Iris, but how old are you? 10 at last this year. Well, what of your mother and father? Oh no, they're not around. Oh, I see. Wonder what the story is there. Wilson, oh, here we go. I think we're gonna find something out now. Oh yes, there's something I must ask you. Of course, go ahead, Susie. I'm a very great fan of the adventures of Herlock Sholmes, and... Oh, you have a copy of Ron's magazine! Yes, I read every issue. It's delivered all the way to Japan on a ship. Oh, this is so exciting! My stories are being read on the other side of the world! My stories? That's right. Hurley's always solving such amazing cases, you see, and he tells me all about them. They really are quite fascinating. It would be such a shame if I was the only one who ever heard them, don't you think? Goodness. Last night, he was telling me all about a new case he just solved on a steamship traveling from a faraway land. So I was just in the middle of typing up the manuscript for the next issue before you came. So you are the author? Yes, I'll let you in on a secret if you like. I'm going to call this latest adventure The Speckled Band. The Speckled Band? That's certainly very familiar. Of course, I always change one or two details in the stories, here and there. This time, I had the idea of making a venomous snake be the cause of all the trouble. Oh, that was Mr. Sholmes' first thought as well, actually. Yes. And of course I know that a snake might not be a credible fit for the facts of the case exactly, but... It's a story. Some poetic license is justified to make it more thrilling, I think. Don't you? So, do you mean to say... Are the stories about Mr. Sholmes that are published in Rand's magazine... all written by me? Yes. On my wonderful and very modern typewriter. But all the stories I've ever read... are written by a doctor of medicine, Dr. John H. Wilson. Sato-san's getting more and more worked up. Ah, yes. That's me. I mean, my name really is Wilson. But what about the doctor of medicine part? That's all true too. I am a doctor of medicine. No, at 10 years old? At 10 years old. Well, that's quite incredible. But... Dr. Wilson is an English gentleman. Ah, yes. I did alter the setting slightly, for the stories to be more compelling. Oh. Well, it sounds a little strange, doesn't it? A great detective with a 10-year-old girl in tow. I suppose it does, yes. Poor Sato-san. She looks like her whole world is just falling apart. Your deductions just now. About before. Yes. What's on your mind, Runo? Do tell me. how did you know that I was a lawyer and we just arrived in London, I mean? Yes. Oh, and that we have a difficult trial tomorrow. How did you know all of that? Oh, that's what you mean. Please tell us how you did it. Explain every detail. Of course, I'd be delighted. Although, there's really no mystery. Now, let's begin. Does she do the deduction part? Iris Wilson is proud to present her logic and reasoning spectacular. Holy shit, she does it! First of all, I knew already that you were a lawyer, Runo. After all, I met you yesterday at the Old Bailey in the defendant's antechamber. But you also said that we'd only just arrived in London. How'd you know that? I observed a passport and travel ticket protruding from your breast pocket. Oh. So I was reasonably confident that you must have only just arrived in the country. And on top of that, you accepted a case against that particular prosecutor, telling me you were unaware of London's court affairs. The Reaper of the Bailey. I walked right into that one, didn't I? Then I noticed a red ink stamp on the back of Susie's hand. You were given that when you visited the local prison to meet with the suspect, weren't you? Earlier today. Ah. They use those stamps to keep a close eye on comings and goings, you see. I didn't realize. And the red stamp is only used for people visiting foreign inmates. So, that told me that even though you had only yesterday concluded the trial of Magnus McGilded, the two of you had already had cause to visit a foreign inmate at a local prison. However, neither of you was wearing a particularly sad expression on your face, so I concluded that the prisoner was unlikely to be a friend or relative. That led me to believe that you must have accepted a new case. I see. But how could you have known that the trial's tomorrow? Well, having barely been home a few hours yesterday, Hurley solved yet another case. It obviously amused him. He told me he caught a Japanese man who was bawling and trembling. Japanese man? Well, clearly that must have been Mr. Natsume. I mean, wait, Susatsu. Mr. Natsume. Now, Runo has that fancy Japanese sword. And I think your outfit is called a kimono, isn't it, Susie? Well, anyway, it was clear to me that you both come from Japan yourselves. So I put two and two together and decided you must be defending the Japanese man Hurley caught. And there was only one conclusion those facts could lead me to. You both came here to ask Hurley about the case. She's good. She's real good. And she didn't even mess anything up. Unlike Herlock himself. Yeah, Iris is the better detective here. Typical. There's a note on the mantelpiece that says the man's trial will be tomorrow. Hurley is always stabbing his notes with a knife, you know. He is silly. And that's all there was to it, really. Thank you for listening. I'm Iris Wilson, and that was one of my great deductions. Well, was it a winner? Were my deductions correct? They were spot on. That was amazing, Iris. Truly a great deduction. You managed to ascertain something of Mr. Sholmes' delivery. Oh, well, I was just copying Hurley's style for that. This is really very good news. You could tell us all about the case involving the Japanese man. You will, won't you, Iris? Please. So yesterday, Mr. Sholmes apprehended a Japanese man, you were saying. Yes. Hurley had just arrived back in London after a sea voyage, but the police were waiting for him at the railway station to take him directly to the crime scene. Ah, Great Detective is a popular man, it seems. Apparently, a woman was stabbed on a quiet street somewhere in town. There were witnesses who had seen a short, shifty-looking, stooped man running away from the scene. A short, shifty-looking, stooped man. Mr. Natsume, beyond any doubt. Mr. Natsume, beyond any doubt. I need to pay attention to these names and the things. Saseki-san said that he didn't see anybody else on the street at all. But it seems there are witnesses after all. Hurley used his great deductive powers to determine the man's address. It was a lodging room very nearby. He went directly there with the police, and what did they find? A short, shifty-looking, stooped man shivering in fear. Ugh. Mr. Sholm's great deduction certainly hit the mark that time. Of course it did. He's a great detective. Still, that means the incident occurred only 2 days ago. Surely tomorrow's too soon for the trial, isn't it? Definitely. We have no time to investigate properly. Hurley says that London is rife with crime. Oh. Scotland Yard is doing its best, but they can't stay on top of it, apparently. Oh dear, I hadn't realized the situation was so dire. That's why they can't afford to spend too much time investigating cases and trying the criminals in court. Staff and money are both short. Crimes are usually pinned on the first suspicious person. That's terrible. I suppose it's the harsh reality of the workings of the world's greatest justice system. I suppose it is. In that case, I don't hold out much hope for Soseki-san. Thank you for answering so many of our questions, Iris. This has been very informative. Oh, look at that pose. Oh, you're most welcome. I've had so much fun. Do you happen to know where Mr. Sholmes is at the moment? As you guessed, we'd like to ask him some questions about this case as well. Ah, well. I expect Hurley's still investigating the scene. Of the case involving Mr. Natsume, you mean? Yes, Mr. Natsume? Hurley said he was going to the man's lodgings. If you leave now, you'll probably catch him there. Iris, do you know where those lodgings are? Well, I imagine the police are still investigating the scene of the crime themselves, aren't they? Did you happen to come across a detective by the name of Gregson when you were there? Yes, we know Inspector Gregson. Ah, goody. In that case, give Gregsy this for me, would you? If you do that, I'm sure he'll tell you what you want to know. What's this? A 5-shilling piece in a postcard, it seems. Let's inspect that right away. It reads, "Tell the gentleman in black whatever he wants to know. I trust that won't be a problem." Is that really what it says? Ooh. Well, I meant to investigate that. 5. This is a 5-shilling piece, isn't it? I believe it's called a crown. Yes, and you can train a Scotland Yard detective to do whatever you want with just a single one. Iris must be the most powerful 10-year-old in the world. How much is 5 shillings, by the way? What's it really worth? Well, it's probably enough to buy all the chips the inspector could possibly eat in a whole month. That's greasy. There you go. Iris's little handwriting is adorable, isn't it? Tell the gentleman in black whatever he wants to know. I trust that won't be a problem. Yes, the handwriting might be adorable, but the message is ominous. There's no room for sentiment there. I'm sure it's simply the way you're interpreting it, Mr. Naruhodo. Anyway, I do hope the inspector will tell us what we need to know when he reads it. You don't think I'll just make him munch piping hot chips until steam comes out of his ears, do you? Well, that wouldn't be an entirely terrible outcome. I do like steam coming out of people's ears. Gosh, this will make the inspector help us, will it? Well, thank you, Iris. We'll give it a try. Good luck, then. I'm going to return to writing my manuscript, The Speckled Band. And I'll be making more special blends of tea, so come back again soon. We'd be delighted. Thank you so much, Iris. Well, Mr. Naruhodo, it's back to the scene of the crime. There was a Gina Lestrade in the previous trial. Sherlock Holmes in the 22nd century. Sherlock Holmes in the 22nd century. That's all I know of that song. Everyone look up Sherlock Holmes in the 22nd century. There was a character named Lestrade, but it was like some street urchin girl who pickpockets. So I don't know what that would. I don't know if there's any connection there. So somewhat dubious that they would exert any influence over the men of Scotland Yard at all. We headed back to the scene with Iris's curious note, and one of the world's heaviest silver coins in hand. Oh, to be continued. Alright. That's a fairly decent place to... I think that would probably be a decent place to stop for today. Mostly because I can feel that if I continue on for another 2 hours, which I imagine the next chapter would be, I think I'm lacking too much sleep, and I'll probably start dozing off like I did a few streams ago, and I don't want to keep doing that every week. So I'll call it here because I know I'm going to lose energy if I try to power through to the end of another chapter. So my apologies to anyone who was hoping to continue more than this today, but I'm going to have to call it here. But whoever is watching, thank you so much for tuning in today. Hope you're enjoying the playthrough so far. If you are someone just watching through the game with this series of videos, that's awful nice of you. Thank you so much. And we'll see you next time. And special shout out to whoever that moosh person was who gave us that wonderful message at the beginning of the stream. That was so sweet. Thank you. Good night, everybody. Hope you have a great weekend. I may stream again maybe Sunday, probably not Saturday, not tomorrow, but perhaps Sunday or Monday. One of those days, I'll probably go for it. See you next time. Good night. Goodbye. Take care of yourselves. Later.